Thanks for other folks who are coming on. We do have a cell phone on. I'm wondering if that's Sagan 491-3976.
Yes, this is Sagan.
Hey, Sagan. Okay. So, Paul, it looks like most of the folks are on. If you want to, I'll turn it over to you to go ahead and get it started.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm calling the meeting to order at 9:33, and we do have a quorum. For introductions, I'm going to start with those in the room. I'm not sure who's all in the room, but can we just start with Melissa?
Great. So this is Melissa with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, and I'll turn it over to Aaron next.
Aaron Sombrero, Silver Key Senior Services.
Lisa Gagnon, PPACG.
John Musados, PPACG.
And now for those who are online, if we can start with, I'm not sure who's online.
I can run through that, Paul, if you'd like.
Okay. Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. Danelle.
Good morning, Danelle Miller, PPACG.
Jacob.
Good morning, all. Jacob Madsen, Mountain Metro Transit.
Deanna.
Good morning, Deanna Rumsey, Member at Large.
Seth.
Good morning, Seth Chapin, Silver Key Senior Services.
Summer. We'll circle back to Summer. Teller Senior Coalition.
Good morning, Ronnie Gordon, Teller Senior Coalition Transportation.
Okay. I think that covers it, Paul.
Thank you. And then now the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for approve?
This is Aaron, motion to approve.
Thank you. In a second.
Deanna Rumsey, second.
Thank you. Any opposed? The motion carried. Thank you all. The next is consent items. We are now going to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Aaron, motion to approve.
Thanks, Aaron. And do I have a second?
Deanna Rumsey, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you all. Public comments and presentations.
So, Mr. Chair, this is Jared in the room. I'll ask anyone who's online who's not a member of the Mobility Coordinating Committee to please use the raise hand function and let us know they'd like to provide a public comment. In the meantime, I'll ask anyone in the room who's not a member to please go to the podium. While we're waiting for those two things to happen, I'll just let the committee know that we did not receive any advance requests for public comment, and we did not receive any written public comment that we would have distributed to the committee members in advance of this meeting. Having gone through that, I see no hands online, no one's at the podium. So, Mr. Chair, I think we can proceed to the next item at your discretion.
Thank you. Number 5 is any action items.
No, sir, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Membership appointments.
And no membership appointments either.
Any community guests and provider presentations?
Mr. Chair, none that were scheduled with us in advance.
Thank you. And now to training, information sharing, coordination opportunities. A working group transition.
Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Gagnon from PPACG, and I will talk about the working group transition. This has been talked about with our executive committee, so now we're bringing it to the rest of the committee. The management feels like it would be best if we transition from a committee to a working group to encourage more flexibility and more open dialogue. It will be more of a operations focused roundtable instead of a formal advisory board. This will no longer need board approval for appointments of the membership to expand the membership and get more people around this round table. This will just bring in more stakeholders and more communities so we can expand our MCC. It will still be open to the public, and the meetings will still be publicly noted so more people can join. And the focus, I have a couple here which are also listed in the packet that was attached to the minutes or the summary that was provided before the meeting. Would help develop the regional mobility guide, identify planning for joint training opportunities, strategizing to address driver shortages or other gaps, any inspection procedures or compliance considerations, and just awareness of upcoming funding to work together, try to get more funding, and then just more interagency collaboration. This would be very helpful just to get to the nuts and bolts of the ride delivery and just more of the operational focus. Depending on what we agree upon today and future meetings, if we need to have more of a discussion, the meetings would move to a quarterly basis. So once every 3 to 4 months. And then the fourth meeting would have the driver appreciation attached to the meeting. And the staff at PPACG would create the agenda, but with the help of steering committee and email chains, I would send out any agenda for that meeting. That is I don't want to say gist of the working group, but that is the main focus of why we're doing it and what would it entail. Is there any comments, questions right now?
I'm wondering if there's an ability to have a discussion about moving the cadence of the meetings from quarterly to every other month. I'm just thinking if we're anticipating that this new move will allow us to have more stakeholder engagement, waiting that long might feel a little bit too long for folks. If they're like, well, I'd love to join, when's your next meeting? You're like, it's 3 months from now. I'm just wondering if that's something that we could discuss as a group, or is that something that's kind of set in stone, that cadence?
That is not set in stone. Every other month would be perfect. I also run the regional transit meeting, which is more of the transit providers, and that is generally every other month. And I've seen that's worked most successful. So every other month would be perfect. Thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Deanna. Is that all? Do we have any questions?
This is Melissa, and I'm glad that folks are kind of letting this sink in a little bit and thinking it through. And I don't know if Lisa was going to bring this up too, but one of the pieces that I see kind of coming up near the bottom is thinking about additional membership entities that could be involved. And I'm just kind of curious. I have I guess 3 thoughts, I guess. One is if you could share, at least for myself and maybe a few others that aren't totally familiar with the regional transit meeting that you run, if you could share a little bit about that and what that is like. And then wondering a little bit about ongoing topics for the next couple of months and seeing what thoughts and ideas people come up with. And then that could potentially lead to expanding the membership and who might want to be invited to come and either present or contribute.
Yes, absolutely. I can talk about the regional transit meetings. This is a very similar idea. So just getting the transit providers, transit agencies, all the transit stakeholders in the same room. Um, so MMT, CDOT, Colorado Department of Transportation, Fountain Transit, and just those are I'm going to touch upon those three. Fort Carson was also there, and what came out of the most recent regional transit meeting was Carson wanted to implement a micro transit on their base, and they got Fountain Transit. And then since CDOT was there, they heard of, oh, we have funding for you. Let's talk. So it increased the collaboration, and it really sped up the process because now Fort Carson had the more funding availability because CDOT was aware of this project. So I would like something like that would happen if we can get CDOT to these mobility coordinating meetings. Listed there also United Way or El Paso County Public Health, just to also give more knowledge of what we're doing in the region and just make sure there's no quote double dipping. If we can just have more of a collaborative focus on what is going on and how to help each other, that would be great. That was more of my idea of this. And I would like to bring in other people around the table to be like, what topics you want to be talked about, what presenters you think should be talked about. I don't want to run the show. That's not the way I want to do. That's not what I think would work best. So just me bringing you guys to the table, bringing the ideas, but also feeding off of yours. Because I don't provide the service, you guys do. So I just wanted to make sure that you are being heard in the best way possible. Yes, Deanna, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. So I know in the past that we've had conversations with folks who do transition services for some of our youth and young adults in the community. And I didn't know if that was potentially a group that we might be interested in reaching out to. And then the other thing I wanted to ask was, since we're entering the summer months, I know the weather recently doesn't feel like it, but it is. If there are opportunities for us to potentially do some recruitment at some community events or, kind of open fairs or those kinds of things where we could potentially do like a tabling and just introduce folks to the working group and let them know what opportunities do exist for them to get involved, just in case they know somebody or they themselves want to get involved with the group. So I just thought I'd put both of those things out there. One, potentially reaching out to transition coordinators at our local school districts. And then the other was the opportunity to do some marketing and promotion as we move into the summer months.
Yes, I think that is a great idea. And anything like that, just to get the promotion out there, just to attract more people to the table, that would be great. Thank you.
And just to really, I guess, copy you guys, looking at other resources in the community, so other community partners that could potentially provide rides, if in fact one of us are filled up in specialized transportation, always having those resources at your fingertips to provide to clients, that's awesome. So that would be great.
Any other comments? We did bring this to the board, and the board, like the board of PPACG, and they did approve the transition to a working group if we decide to.
I think there was a finer point to that. They created the working group so it exists, but again, ultimately, we would have to go back to actually move it. Is that correct, Jared?
Correct. And so this is not the only committee that we are having this discussion with. And so as part of that discussion, we've identified that the formal committee structure, having to get approval for someone to participate in advance, really does limit the ability for someone to participate because it is based on the individual, not the organization. So if people move, it can take a 2-month process to get that person at the table. And so for awareness, air quality is the other group that we're having this discussion with. But as John said, the board is aware that mobility and air quality are the two groups that are likely going to move in this direction. But this does provide the flexibility. So if other groups are created, this ability exists and provides that flexibility. A lot of our jurisdictions have something like this, whether they call it a task force designation, whether they call it a commission designation. There's a lot of different ways to accomplish this, and we're kind of taking that next natural step.
And if I could just add one more thing for the working group designation. Again, it's a less formal thing. So Deanna, when we had said, hey, maybe we move to quarterly, and Deanna, you were like, let's just do every other month. Again, because if it moves to a working group, which again, I think sounds like everyone's amenable to, and that's again where we think it would work best. If we start having meetings where we're gaining momentum and we're running out of time, you can move back to monthly. Or conversely, if it's like, well, we're having a thing where we've got to sort of maybe look at this and try to regroup so the meetings are more full, and you guys want to go to quarterly. Again, that's totally up to you and what you can work out and when the room is available. So that's the beauty of this is you're not locked into bylaws that say thou shalt meet X. This is really like what makes sense for the region and for where we are in transportation at that time. So that's the other reason why it just seems to make sense. Plus, as issues come and go, which we've all seen, it provides you the flexibility to sort of bring folks in that are experts in those things. And then as those things sort of settle down or we come to conclusion on those things, maybe those people sort of like, oh, well, this is great, I'm still going to come. Or they're like, hey, well, they addressed my issue, answered my issue, and now I can sort of step back and maybe not go as often. So again, we think it's the right tool for this, and we think that over time, the meetings will become more productive and you all will feel like you're getting more out of the time that you spend doing it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Lisa,
So I have a
John, what is the timeline to transition if we all vote yes?
Well, let's see. I think the vote yes part is the one I'm going to have to struggle with first. I think we get input, but ultimately, whose decision would it be?
So the ultimate decision would be the board of directors to make this decision. We are not expecting to take this for action before the July meeting at the earliest. I think we're meeting with MCC, we're meeting with air quality this week. And so that's kind of just the initial, is there any objections? Are there any issues that people are having with this? But we do not have a formal vote as part of this. The ultimate decision would be the board of directors. However, if there was strong opposition, we would pump the brakes and figure out the right step forward.
Yeah, there would be no point in having meetings if we ticked everybody off and nobody would come, right? So it's your committee, right? So that's why we want to make sure that it meets your needs and we're actually moving the ball forward, or any of the other numerous cliches that I could use. But the bottom line is there is no timeline in that. We just want to get your input. And if people feel strongly one way or another, we're happy to accommodate that. Sort of like Deanna was like, hey, let's not do quarterly, let's do every other month. You notice how much pushback there was. Oh, wait, there was 0, right? So we're fine with that. And again, ultimately, if everybody says that they want to be here once a month for stuff, we can do that. But just know that some of these meetings have not necessarily filled the hour, so to speak, right? But if that's what you guys want to do, that's fine. But it seems to us, and I've been doing this way too long, that if you want to gain momentum for maybe meeting on a monthly basis, the meetings have to be full. And right now, quite frankly, there's not enough material and interest and everything else to accommodate that. So moving to every other month, letting us go out and recruit, letting us go and try to hammer down some more invigorating subjects. I think I used that word incorrectly. More subjects that are thought-provoking, and then we can move from there. Does that make sense?
It does. I think it's a great idea. I agree with every other month to start out with. The flexibility that it provides, a working group versus committee, I think we're on the right path. So if I was voting yes today, I would vote yes.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Jared.
Jacob.
Here, Jared.
Jacob had his hand up.
All right, so question. I don't have the bylaws in front of me. I was trying to track them down. Does this committee currently have any, and I know we don't make the decision, but do we have any authority in terms of different grants and different programs going through and how we vote on a recommendation? And would this be, if we do, does this impact that?
So Jacob, I'm going to chime in. I'm trying to. So the answer, he has to do a bylaws. We have looked at kind of updating them several times, and they haven't been updated. But I think I'm going to answer your question. But if I don't, let me know. So this group would not, the working group designation would not have anything in terms of policy making. If this group were to make a decision, we would want it to be by consensus, and then it would go to a committee of origin. For the MCC, we've identified that as a transportation advisory committee. And so because if they were going to make any decisions, which the MCC has not historically done that, the closest has been, I think, 5310 funding conversations, but those have gone through, I believe, through the regional advisory council process as opposed to the mobility coordinating committee process. And so if anything came up of this working group, again, this group would be more focused on operations, coordination, kind of how Aaron said, if someone's full, they know who to call, they know who to contact to try to find that ride for someone. As opposed to a real heavy policy discussion. However, if this working group identified, hey, we really do need a change at this level, it would go through TAC, then CAC, Community Advisory Committee, and then reach the Board of Directors. And that was a point of conversation during the discussion with the Board of Directors earlier this month. Because the Board of Directors would still set the scope of this working group and what they would be focusing on. They were a little concerned that if they're not approving members, how do they keep reign? And that's what we told them, is that anything that comes through, this group is still firmly within the Board of Directors' purview and control. But if anything were to come out of this group, it would go through Transportation Advisory Committee, Community Advisory Committee, up to the board. Jason, did I answer that question?
It's Jacob.
This is Jacob.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I believe you did. That does help. I just remember going way back. There was something in the bylaws I thought like going 5, 6, 7 years ago looking back, but I think that answers it. Thank you, Jared.
Okay. Jason, Jacob, Jared, Jay, whoever, yeah.
It's all good. I used to have checks signed out to Jason and the bank allowed me to cash them, so it works.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, I have another meeting, so I'm going to excuse myself.
Jared.
Is there any other questions or comments? Again, we're not voting on this today, just more informational, just to get the conversation started.
So this is Melissa. In terms of kind of the opportunity to get more information out to the community, I will mention that I'm happy to help with that if the time comes. The Area Agency on Aging does a lot of tabling activities around the community. It doesn't necessarily mean that we might meet the people that should be part of this working group per se, but Also just keep that in mind. I'm happy to share any type of flyer or whatever that might help to get the word out. So just let me know. But I also know that you're attending all kinds of meetings, Lisa, at the kind of regional and state level, that you're probably connecting more with people at that level than when I go out and do outreach, but you never know. So there's that. And I'm thinking that even though there's like not a vote per se today happening, the idea is that potentially the group will decide. And so like the next meeting, it says on the agenda June, it might not be in June. So I think, unless people want to have it in June, or if it needs to get pushed out to a little later date, maybe going to the bi-monthly idea, having it be in August. Or July, I guess. I'm bouncing way ahead in the summer. I don't want to do that. Take a step
Again,
back.
it's the J names, the J months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just kind of a thought on that in terms of when the next meeting should happen. And yeah.
My email, I don't say drop on the chat, but I don't have access to the chat. You might have my email on the website, or I can email my email, so you have my contact information. You can email any questions or comments if you don't want to wait to the next meeting. That'll be great. Any other comments on the transition to the working group?
Lisa,
I
can
might-
I have this emailed to me?
Yes, I will absolutely.
Summary, thank you so much. And maybe anybody else that wants it.
Yep, I will email my contact information and then maybe a summary of what we just discussed, just so you can sit on it and then create any comments or questions, and you can email me back.
And for me, this is most likely my last meeting. I will still be around to help with driver appreciation in the fall with Lisa. Well, the winter, I guess. And then any other questions that Lisa has, but I don't believe that I will be at the next meeting. So I'm just here to say yay to everybody, and that I'm here to, share more information out into the community or whatever is needed, but I won't have to coordinate the executive committee meeting or do minutes. So I'm happy to focus on other things going forward.
We're going to miss you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa, for everything.
Yes, thank you. When I first started, you opened your arms and took me underneath your wings, so I really appreciate all that you did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I do have an announcement. I do have the mobility guides. They are how to get around the Pikes Peak region, Park, Teller, and El Paso County. If you like them, please let me know. You can pick them up, or I can drop them off in that email I will send. I will just put a little reminder. They do no good sitting in the closet, so I can only pass out so many. So if you want some, please let me know.
And chair spots, we might want to circle back and have any of the agencies on give their information sharing opportunities before we bring this meeting to a close.
Sure.
Any other agencies? No. Okay. I think, Mr. Chair, we can adjourn the meeting if no one else has any comments.
Okay, so are we going through next month as a meeting or the following month?
Let me email with the recap of this meeting, and then
Okay.
And then we will decide, unless anyone has any strong opinions right now. I am either way. Again, I essentially work for this group, so whatever this committee would like to do.
It's good. We have somebody saying, Tara.
Tara, you have your hand up?
Yes, so I just wanted to announce from Transit that we have our fare free during June through August of this summer. Fare free on all the Mountain Metro or Mountain Metropolitan Transit buses.
Tara.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. I guess we're going to adjourn today at 10:03.